There's a kind of stillness that falls over a town not when snow blankets the earth, but when fear takes root in its heart. It begins with a cough in the schoolhouse, a child sent home with flushed cheeks and glassy eyes. Then another, and another. By the third day, the whispers have names: scarlet fever. In 1870s Minnesota, those words carry more weight than a winter storm. Scarlet fever isn't just illness. It's a sentence hanging in the air, waiting to fall. Before penicillin, before hospitals, before even a true understanding of germs, this disease moved like a ghost through families, taking children in their sleep, leaving mothers hollow-eyed and fathers silent at the dinner table. And now it's in Walnut Grove. The town doctor, a man who's seen too much and slept too little, makes the only call he can: quarantine. Signs go up. Doors stay shut. No gatherings. No visitors. Not even the preacher comes to pray. The world shrinks to the four walls of your home, and the terrifying thought that the very air you breathe might be poison. For the Ingalls family, this isolation is both a shield and a test, because just before the quarantine began, Mary and Laura spent the afternoon with the Hansen children, two sweet Swedish siblings who lived down the road, their parents still learning English, their home filled with the smell of rye bread and wood smoke. They played tag in the yard, shared a cup of water, laughed until their sides ached. Now, that laughter feels like a death sentence. News trickles in slowly, carried by the wind or a note left at the fence post. The Hansen. Boy is sick, then worse, then gone. The little boy, just 8 years old, didn't wake up one morning. His sister, only 6, burns with fever, calling out for Mary in her delirium. "Mary, read to me," she begs her mother. Mary's voice makes the angels come. Mrs. Hansen, her face streaked with tears and exhaustion, walks the half-mile to the Ingalls cabin in the cold dusk. She doesn't ask for medicine. She doesn't ask for money. She asks for Mary. Caroline sees the plea in her eyes before a word is spoken, and in that moment, every mother's nightmare unfolds in silence. My child could die if she steps through that door. She turns to Mary. "You know what this means," she says. Her voice barely above a whisper. Mary does. She's heard the stories. She's seen the empty chairs at school. She knows scarlet fever doesn't care how good you are, how kind, how young. It only cares if you're near, but Mary doesn't flinch. "I have to go, Ma," she says, not with drama, but with a quiet certainty that seems to come from somewhere deeper than herself. She's alone, and she's scared. Charles steps forward, his face tight with fear. "Mary, you're not a doctor. You can't heal her." "No," Mary replies, meeting his eyes. "But I can sit with her, and that's something." In that sentence lies the entire soul of this episode. Because if I should wake before I die, named for the old hymn lyric that haunted 19th century bedside prayers, isn't about curing disease. It's about bearing witness. It's about refusing to let someone suffer in silence. It's about understanding that presence is its own kind of medicine. Caroline packs a small satchel, clean cloths soaked in vinegar, the best they have to cool a fever, broth in a thermos, a worn copy of the Bible, and Mary's favorite blue shawl, the one she wraps around her shoulders when she reads at night. She ties the string slowly, her fingers steady even as her heart races. Then she kneels and cups Mary's face in her hands. "Read her the 23rd Psalm," she says, the part about walking through the valley of the shadow of death, and fearing no evil. Because love, she adds, her voice breaking just once, is stronger than fear. Mary walks to the Hansen cabin not with a hero's stride, but with the quiet steps of someone who knows the cost and pays it anyway. Inside, the air is thick with heat and the sour sweet smell of sickness. The little girl lies still, her skin hot to the touch, her breath shallow. When she sees Mary, her eyes flutter open. "You came," she whispers. Mary sits on the edge of the bed, takes her hand and begins to read. Not loudly, not with performance, just softly, clearly, like she's weaving a spell of calm with every word. She reads the Psalms. She reads from their school reader, stories of brave girls and faraway lands. She hums the hymns Ma sings at bedtime, hour after hour. Day after day, she boils water for tea. She changes the girl's nightgown. She holds a cool cloth to her forehead. She sleeps in a chair by the bed, waking at every whimper, and slowly, miraculously, the fever breaks. The little girl sits up, drinks broth, asks for bread. She lives, but Mary doesn't leave. Not yet, because grief doesn't end when the fever lifts. The Hanson parents are shattered. One child buried under the frozen earth, the other clinging to life. Mary stays to help wash linens, to sweep the floor, to sit with Mrs. Hanson as she cries silent tears into her apron. She becomes, in those quiet days, not just a neighbor, but family. When she finally walks back to the Ingalls cabin, Caroline runs to her, pulls her into a hug so tight it steals the breath from both of them. "You came back," Caroline whispers, her voice thick with relief and awe. Mary nods, exhausted but peaceful. She needed me, and in those 3 words, we understand everything. This episode was revolutionary for 1974. At a time when television often reduced illness to plot devices or melodrama, Little House showed something rare: compassion as an act of will. Mary isn't rewarded with a miracle. She isn't protected by divine intervention. She simply chooses, again and again, to stay. Historically, scarlet fever killed over 15% of infected children in the 1800s. Quarantines were common. Families were abandoned. And yet, in diaries and letters from the era, we find accounts of neighbors who did cross the line, who brought food, who sat with the sick, who held hands through the night. They didn't always survive, but they refused to let love be silenced by fear. Michael Landon, who wrote this episode, based it on those real stories. He wanted to show that heroism isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a girl reading Psalms in a fevered room. Sometimes it's a mother letting her child walk into danger because she knows the world needs more love, not less. And through Laura's eyes, wide with awe and fear, we see what true courage looks like. Not the kind that slays dragons, but the kind that sits in the dark with someone who's afraid to die alone. Today, this story echoes with new urgency. In a world still shaped by pandemics, by isolation, by the instinct to protect ourselves at all costs, Mary's choice feels radical. Don't turn away. Lean in. Be the one who stays. Because in the end, we won't be remembered for how well we avoided risk, but for how deeply we loved in the face of it. So, if this journey moved you, if you've ever been the one who stayed, or the one who was stayed for, I'd be honored to hear your story. Drop a comment below. Who showed you love when it was dangerous to do so? If this 40-minute storytelling of "If I Should Wake Before I Die" touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to SG Top Celebrities, and hit the bell so you never miss another story that heals, teaches, and reminds us of our shared humanity. Thank you for walking this quiet road with Mary. As Ma once said, the greatest act of faith isn't believing you'll be safe, it's believing someone is worth the risk. Until next time, keep your lamp lit even in the darkest night.